Right now could be the best moment to buy a 911 Turbo. Prices decreased at above normal rates after the price top last summer, but depreciation trends finally started to flatten, even for the latest models. You could therefore save a pretty penny by buying a 911 Turbo right now. However, as you might have expected, there are some differences between the generations. In this video you'll get an update on the latest price trends, how they compare to other cars, and what all of this means for future prices. If you're interested in a different 911 model like the GT3 or the Carrera, I recommend that you head over to my channel and check out the Porsche playlist. Starting with the 996, we can see that prices continue to be exceptionally strong for the Turbo. However, the state of the 996 Turbos that are for sale is improving. The median mileage of the cars that are listed for sale has been decreasing. If we correct the price change for this mileage, we end up at a change of minus 0.8%. Or in other words, prices didn't change. Many older cars with low supply levels require this kind of adjustment. And I've been contemplating to show you the adjusted price trend immediately instead of the unadjusted one. Let me know down below in the comment section which one you prefer. Now finally, it's important to mention that this trend only covers the base models. Supply for the Turbo S and turbos with the X50 package is too low to get a reliable trend. Transitioning to the 997, we can see equally strong trends. Over here we have the price trend for the automatics, split by the .1 and .2 and the base and the S models. Based on these trends, .1 base models are up by 1%, .2 base models are down by 7%, and .2 S's are down by 8.1%. But as you can see from the confidence intervals, the trend for the .2 S's contains a lot of uncertainty. Out of those two segments, the .2S is the largest, so I took that one and did a deep dive into the data. And this resulted in a price drop of minus 1% during last year, after correcting for changes in the market composition. This is more aligned with the .1 base model and a much better estimate of what actually happened. So I will use this as a proxy for the .2 base model. And that leaves us with the manual base models. A rare car indeed, especially when it comes to the .2s. Supply tends to hover around 5 cars and this makes the price trends very unreliable. We're therefore only going to cover the .1s. Now on the face of it, it seems that prices dropped by 8.3% during last year. Yet, correcting for fluctuations in the market composition, we arrive at an average drop of 1.3%. Indeed, similar to what we saw in the automatic market, so we'll use this number going forward. Let's move on to the 991 generation. Luckily there are more than enough cars for sale over there. Over here we have the .1 and .2 split by the base and the S models. The exclusive versions aren't included. Now compared to last year, .2s are down by 6.2% or $11,700 and .1s by 6.3% or $9,100. Very similar results. .2 base models are down by 8.5% or $14,500. And for the .1s this is 11% or $15,200. Of course, these numbers are a lot higher than for the 997 and 991, but this makes sense, right? The cars are a lot newer. Moreover, only looking at the numbers might distort the evaluation of the depreciation trend. Have a look at the shape of the trend. We can see that the cars dropped relatively quickly between June and December 2022. This happened in the complete market. Car prices topped in the summer of 2022 after they soared during the pandemic and experienced above average depreciation rates in the second half of 2022. More recently though, we can see that the depreciation rates decreased in the 911 Turbo market. There's a clear flattening visible in the trend. Correcting for inflation, the 991s are cheaper than before the pandemic, and this might mean that we'll see more normal depreciation rates going forward. Now if you're in the market for a 991 Turbo, you might want to keep an eye on the auctions at Sotheby's Motorsport. This 991 Turbo sold a few weeks ago at their no reserve auction for $163,000. That's quite a good deal for a car with only 8,000 miles. They tend to be listed for $180,000. Sotheby's Motorsport is a new online auction platform for sport, exotic and luxury vehicles priced between $100,000 and approximately $1 million. Building on their vast experience with in-person auctions, they offer a white glove service that involves, for example, third-party inspections on listed cars, financially vetting of the bidders, and help in arranging the finances. Right now you can bid, for example, on this 2022 RS6. Lotus Esprit that comes with a Lotus Certificate of Vehicle Provenance, and the Shelby Series 1 prototype that comes with a statement of origin signed by Carroll Shelby himself. If these cars sparked your interest, head over to Sotheby's Motorsport.com, register as a bidder and start bidding. The platform is off to a great start. Besides the 911 Turbo that I showed you earlier, they also successfully closed on some other amazing cars, like this 911 Carrera T, Viper GTS and SF90 Spider. Let's continue with the 992 Turbo market. Much of what we saw in the 991 market also applies to the 992s. Over here we have the 992 market split by the base and the S models, and by the coupes and convertibles. We can see again a sharp drop in the second half of 2022, followed by a flattening in 2023. Compared to last year, S cabriolets are down by 11.2%, S coupes by 10.7%, base cabriolets by 11.3% and base coupes by 7.7%. And in monetary terms these numbers sit between $20,000 and roughly $33,000. They're a tad higher than in the 991 market, but again, this is mainly caused by the drop in the beginning of the period. Alright, I showed you a lot of graphs and numbers, and it can be a little bit difficult to keep track of things, right? So I think it's about time that we summarize what we saw. Over here we have all the year-over-year price changes for the turbos. On average, they lost 6.3%, but as we can see, this number is a bit misleading. There are large differences between the newest and the oldest generations. 992s, for example, lost on average 10%, whereas 996 barely lost 1%. Heck, even the year-over-year numbers for the new cars don't portray the full picture. We saw that 992s and 991s dropped rapidly in the second half of 2022, but that the trends flattened significantly. In other words, it appears to be so that the reaction to the pandemic price surge is over, and that depreciation rates return to more normal values. That of course doesn't mean that turbos won't depreciate. On the contrary, they will, but just as before the pandemic, they are doing so at rates that are lower than the market average. Over here we have the year-over-year price changes on the horizontal axis for most cars for which I'm tracking the prices, and the number of cars to which these changes apply on the vertical axis. This graph reveals that the average decrease during last year was 9.8%, a lot more than the average decrease of 6.3% in the turbo market. But that's not so surprising. It's the comparison to the individual generations that shows the strength of the turbo market. You see, this plot is based on cars from all different ages, and this means that the new cars tend to fall on the left hand side of the average. Cars with an age between 0 and 3% lost, for example, 13%, and this is more than the 10% drop in the 992 turbo market. Cars with an age between 3 and 7 years tend to fall around a mean of 9.8%, while the 991 turbo lost on average 8%. Also the 996 and 997s did well. Grouped together they lost approximately 0.5%. You can see that there are not many models left on the right hand side of the 0 point. The number of cars over here is getting smaller and smaller. Now from all of the pricing data that we just saw, we can conclude that 911 turbo prices are relatively strong and that the market recovered. Also the underlying data supports this. Supply is for example down by roughly 40% in the 992 and 997 market and by 56% in the 991 market. Trends are down. But that's not all. No. Also supply in relation to demand stabilized. On the left hand side we can see the unsold inventory. So the percentage of cars at any given date that was also for sale 3 months ago. We can see that the cars were selling slower and slower during 2022 and that the decrease halted mid-2022. There are of course some fluctuations, but the upward trend clearly broke, signaling that the market is more balanced than before. Viewers of last week's Ferrari market video will recognize this pattern. It's happening across the market. Now switching to the graph on the right, we can see that also the discounts on the unsold inventory stabilized. They dipped at 6% at the end of 2022, increased and more recently have been stable. Also a sign that demand and supply are relatively in sync at the moment. Again, this is similar to the Ferrari market of last week. Of course, there can be a bit of seasonality in last year's dip, but I think it's mainly a reaction to the pandemic price surge. At the moment, I'm not seeing such strong decreases. And with that, it's time to wrap up and conclude. Why could it be a good moment to buy a 911 Turbo? First, when it comes to the newer models, you're saving a lot of money because you're buying after the post-pandemic price drop. Depreciation was higher than usual, but now returned to more normal rates. Inflection points are usually efficient buying opportunities. When it comes to the older cars, prices have been proven to be relatively stable, even when the rest of the market tanked. Past price behavior is of course no guarantee for the future, but stable prices could be a good indication as to how prices might react when the market plummets again. Second, depreciation rates are better than the market. Of course the turbos will continue to drop, but at least they will drop less than the market average. Third, the market stabilized. Cars are selling at similar speeds and also discount rates have been relatively stable. In other words, you're not buying a falling knife. Now all of these arguments are of course based on the current market, so all statements about future prices should be interpreted as pure speculation. It might be unnecessary to say that, but here you go. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car markets but would like to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find market analysis for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Please let me know the name of the car by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new video.